You're in the valley? Let me tell you, it's because you slept in when you should have stepped out and spent time with Him on the mountain when things were great. You ever wonder why you look at the world and all looks like it's falling apart, especially your life? Let me tell you why. Because that calmness that you can only get on the mountain, you didn't take. God's promised He'll never give us more than we can handle. 1 Corinthians 10:13. And He's never lied. Your effectiveness with the demons of the valley is directly related to what you do with your time on the mountain. I love Edmund's comment. He said, never doubt in the darkness what you learned in the light. Never doubt in the darkness what you learned in the light. What was he saying? Don't doubt down in the valley what you learned up on the mountain. Just be sure that you're learning on the mountain. Don't party up there. Don't prepare. Pray. Get still. Be with the Father. And you can deal with any valley that comes. And then secondly, I want you to see that valleys require mountains, but also impossibilities reveal authority. Let's go back to the 10th chapter of Matthew, verse 8. It's the commissioning of the 12 as Jesus sends out the disciples 2 by 2. And He gives them the authority that they're going to need to carry out His work. This is what He says to them. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you've received, freely give. In other words, Jesus gives the disciples His miraculous powers. And then in Matthew 17:19, then the disciples came to Jesus in private and asked, why couldn't we drive the demon out? Verse 20, Jesus replied, because you have so little faith. I tell you the truth, if you have faith small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. I remember when I first started traveling for the Atlanta Salt Company all over the place, I was sitting in an airport one time, and I saw one of these little motorized carts pull a huge 747 jet across the parking lot by the terminal. I mean, it looks like an ant pulling an elephant. And I looked at that little thing pulling that huge plane, and I thought to myself, if that huge jet starts those engines, he's going to pull that little car right up into the air with it. And brothers and sisters, we're exactly the same way. We have tremendous power as individual believers in Jesus Christ. And I believe that things don't happen in our lives and in the life of the church because we simply don't believe that they will happen. Back when I got out of college, I was a policeman for 4 years. And one thing policemen don't like is to get a call to go to a bar fight. One reason is because you're dealing with people who are intoxicated. Another reason is tempers and emotions are usually flaring. Another is because you're dealing with a group and not an individual. And the situation is very volatile and unpredictable. With policemen, though, you've got a human element that you're dealing with. I've seen officers intimidated to the point where they were backed out of a bar or wouldn't go in to start with. However, there was always one thing that broke up the brawl and got the good guys all the respect and attention that they needed. That was when a canine officer showed up with his German Shepherd. He could walk that dog into a bar and nobody moved. Because that dog had the power and the authority and the teeth to do his job, and he wasn't intimidated by drunks or beer bottles. You too are going to face some impossible situations. You too are going to face some really tough times. And when you do, you need power. But you need to remember the power that walks with you is better than any German Shepherd. In 1 Corinthians 3, the last 2 verses of the chapter says, everything that's ever been created on the face of the earth was created for you. You own this place. Jesus has given you His power, and the translation means His essence. The essence of His authority and power to deal with those things which He's called us to face in our lives. And we don't use it. Why did Jesus say? Because we don't believe. We don't have the faith to think that it'll be there for us. How do you get that kind of faith? You don't hustle for it. Ephesians 2:8 says that it's a gift from God, lest any man should boast. You've got to go and you've got to ask for it. You've got to get on your knees before the throne and ask Him for the power. And it'll come. When things are going good, faith is never exercised and belief is irrelevant. When things are going bad, that's when you need the Father. And if you don't have it, and if you don't have the faith, go sincerely before the throne and ask Him and receive the authority that He gives freely. And then thirdly, I want you to see that hardships realize solutions. Matthew 17:15. Lord, have mercy on my son, he said. He has seizures and is suffering greatly. He often falls into the fire or into the water. Verse 17b. Jesus said, bring the boy here to me. And Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of the boy. And he was healed from that moment. You see, it was the little boy's problem that got him to Jesus. It was the little boy's problem that got him next to the solution. Remember the old Gaither song, Through It All? Do you remember the words? If I never had a problem, I would never know that God could solve them. I'd never know what faith in God could do. Romans 8:28 can seem a little bit like a simple explanation for tough times. I think it gets quoted a lot out of character. Maybe when time and perspective develop the truth of Romans 8:28. Let me read you the verse. And we know that in all things God works together for the good of those who love him and have been called according to his purpose. That sounds great. But when you're hurting, and you're in the middle of that hurt, I mean, when it's your health, when it's your marriage, when it's your home, when it's your children, when it's your job. To John, who's on his third round of chemotherapy, his hair's gone. He lost his wife 2 years earlier to cancer. Don't you know, John, that in all things God works together for good? A little tough to take. To Jill, whose husband left her for another woman right after she gave birth to their first child. Don't you know that in all things God works together for good? To Jody, who grew up being sexually abused and now cuts herself. All things work together. To the couple who've been trying for years to have a child. To the young man who has full-blown AIDS and a haunting past. To Jane, whose 16-year-old daughter was paralyzed and left mentally handicapped because of a car accident. To Jerry, whose daughter works as a prostitute. To Jackie, who chokes on her loneliness. In all things, remember, God works together for the good. And he really does. Sometimes it takes time and perspective and persistence. I don't know if you've ever seen these commercials advertising some new pharmaceutical product, some new drug they've come out with. They paint this wonderful picture of this drug. You've seen it. Music will be playing. People will be laughing, dancing, floating, running through the fields. All because of this new wonderful drug. And then at the end of the commercial, they quickly list the side effects, which are worse than your original problem. Like this medication I read about. Instructions read, take 2 tablets every 6 hours for joint pain. Now listen to the side effects. This drug may cause joint pain, nausea, diarrhea, leg cramps, headache, or shortness of breath. You may also experience muscle aches, rapid heartbeat, impotence, and ringing in the ears. If trips to the bathroom become greater than 12 per hour, consult your doctor. You may find yourself becoming lost or vague. May cause weight loss in pregnant mothers. May induce a tendency to compulsively repeat the phrase, no can do. You may feel a powerful sense of impending doom. Do not take this product if you're uneasy with lockjaw. This drug may shorten your intestines by 21 feet. Women experience a lowering of the voice and an increase in ankle hair. Sensations of levitation are common, as is the sensation of having a phantom third arm. 20 minutes after taking the pills, you will feel an insatiable craving to take another dose. Avoid this with all your power. Sometimes it gets worse before it gets better, doesn't it? I've shared with you my secret desire to always be a journalist or a reporter. And when I read the Bible, I would have loved to have been able to go back in time and been there when some of those great events happened, with a pencil and a paper or a microphone and a camera like we do it today. Would have loved to talk to this little boy. I would have said, son, I heard you had a terrible, terrible problem. What happened? And he would have said, yeah, I don't remember all of it, but my daddy said that it was dangerous, and I used to fall in the fire. See here are the scars that I've got from the fire, and I almost drowned one time in the water. And I would have said, son, what's happened? And he would have smiled and said, well, you see, my daddy took me to Jesus. And I would have said, son, do you like Jesus? And he would have said, oh, yes, sir. More than anything else in the world, I love him. And then I would have said, was it worth the demon meeting Jesus? And he would have grinned from ear to ear and said, are you kidding me? To know Jesus, of course, it was worth the demon. There's a story about Abraham Lincoln plowing behind a horse, and there's a horsefly on the back of the horse. Lincoln's brother comes up, flicks the horsefly off the horse, and Lincoln says, why did you do that for? It was the only thing that was making him go. I don't know what your horsefly is. I don't know what the only thing in your life is that's making you go to Jesus, but you do. Maybe it's finances. Maybe it's your job. Maybe it's your marriage. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your kids. Maybe things are really falling apart. Listen, don't always see that as a negative. Like the little boy, see it as that which propels you to the throne of God, where there are real answers and solutions to real problems. And then fourth thing, finally, very quickly, I want you to see that persistence reaps reward. I've already told you that verse 21 doesn't exist in my Bible, and I've told you why. And it's the verse in the King James that talks about great faith coming about by prayer and fasting. Now let's go over to the parallel text of Mark 9 and read verse 29 and see what Jesus really did say there. The disciples have just come to him, asked him why they couldn't cast out this demon. And in Mark 9:29, this is what Jesus says. This kind can come out only by prayer